We're Steve and Audra. Over the past year, we've been converting our Ford Transit to a tiny home on wheels and doing some traveling. Our mission is to do a low-budget build using repurposed materials as much as possible. This week, we're sharing how we built his and hers upper cabinets for clothing storage in the sleeping area of our van using salvaged materials. Just laying here, enjoying the breeze and the view of our new cabinets. Hit that subscribe button and join us for another van build episode.
Like most projects we do with the van, I created a template to get the right shape for the cabinet side that would match the contours of the wall and ceiling. From there, I traced the template onto a 3/4 inch piece of plywood and started to cut out the first piece.
While Steve was cutting out pieces for the sides of the cabinet, I worked on sanding the piece that we'd use for the bottom. We chose to use nicer wood for the sides that would be more visible, but opted to use cheaper plywood for the base. Because it was more rough, I worked on smoothing it down.
Once Audra had the base piece sanded down, and we had figured out the exact width we wanted, I measured and cut the first piece to size. A neighbor friend loaned us a Krug pocket hole jig tool. It comes in really handy for hiding screws and making a strong joint when fastening two pieces of wood together for a project like cabinets. It takes the guesswork out of toenailing and creates a nice, finished look. I used the jig to prepare the piece for attaching the front side of the cabinet. I created holes for 6 screws on each side, which might have been a bit overkill, but since everything in the van will have to stand up to the rattles and bumps from driving, I wanted to make sure it will stay secure. Many people opt to glue pieces to add strength, but we have made the decision not to use glue. We want to ensure if we ever need to modify things in the future, it will be easy to take everything apart. Once the holes were drilled, I started attaching the piece. Next, I attached the back bottom support piece. I started attaching the center divide. I used the same template that I had created, but cut it 3/4 inch shorter to account for the thickness of the bottom piece. I attached the back piece using the same process I had for the front. Next, I measured and cut the upper back supports.
To keep costs down and also play our part in trying to keep unnecessary things from going to the landfill, we purposely drive around our area on trash days to look for useful items that people are throwing out. Sometimes we give them away, sometimes we sell them, and sometimes we use them. For this project, all of the materials are salvaged.
I continued to assemble the pieces for the top supports, using the Krug jig to make the pocket holes and attaching the pieces.
At this point, we decided to put the cabinet up to give it a test fit. We were pleased with how well it fit. This part of the build went particularly well, in that it was one of the few times that everything went as planned on the first try. It was time to start painting. It was a pain to use a normal-size roller to paint such a small space, but I didn't want to see brush strokes on the finished product, so I rolled as much as possible. Since this was the backside that won't be seen, I brushed instead of rolling it here. I painted everything inside the garage to protect it from the elements. In hindsight, it would have been easier if we'd taken down the bike hanging from the ceiling, instead of having to play contortionist while painting.
Once the paint dried, I added real simple side supports for the shelves to sit on. These shelves are repurposed pieces of MDF that we picked up on one of our trash day excursions. Next, we started putting up the finished face pieces. "67% of the time, it works every time." I even managed to get it pretty close to square. Due to the positioning of these pieces, I drilled directly from the top and bottom to secure them. In hindsight, I'm not sure why I didn't use the Kreg jig here. It resulted in holes on the top that you won't see, but a couple on the bottom side that could be visible. Obviously, these bottom holes could have been avoided by using the Kreg jig.
And that's that, huh? Next, I need to finish painting and we put it back up, right?
Yep.
Nicely done.
Now,
First set of cabinets.
put on some doors.
Door just like that size and everything.
Yep.
Just kidding. So here's the cabinet all finished up. I gave everything a final coat of paint and put the shelves back in. Okay, it's ready to go. It was time to put the cabinet up for the final time.
We like the design of the cabinet. The placement of the supports provide ample opportunity for securing it to the wall and ceiling. We also designed it so it's centered over our bed with plenty of space for our feet when we sleep.
Just laying here, enjoying the breeze and the view of our new cabinets. We've got a his and her side, and it provides a surprising amount of space for storage. We have traveled many times since installing the cabinets, and we have more space than we actually need for our clothes. Something we find interesting is how differently each van build can be. We've enjoyed seeing how other people build out their van and have learned so much from other videos. We hope you found this step of our build interesting or helpful. If so, please click the thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure to check out our other van build and travel videos and leave a comment to let us know you're watching. See you next week.